Walk into almost any classroom, and when a student makes a highly controversial claim, you'll usually see the same reflex play out. The tension in the room spikes, voices get louder, and the teacher immediately shuts it down to keep the peace. There is a second path. Two people who disagree can stay in the room, stay respectful, and work the disagreement through to something clearer than where they started. What exactly breaks down in that split second of a toxic argument, and how do you build a room that behaves like the second scenario instead of the first? This breakdown stems from a specific mechanical skills gap, a set of practicable, repeatable rules that can be taught and drilled just like shooting a free throw. Today's students are navigating an online ecosystem that algorithmically rewards outrage. They spend their time on platforms built to surface the loudest, most contemptuous version of a disagreement. Social scientist Arthur Brooks argues that our problem isn't disagreement, it's contempt. His framework suggests that a productive conversation depends on our ability to cleanly separate the two. Deanna Kuhn's research at Columbia University shows that argumentative reasoning is a developmental skill, not an inherent personality trait. It requires scaffolded practice and consistent feedback to take hold. The classroom is one of the few places where an adult can slow the cycle down and introduce structured practice before the habits of online discourse fully set in. Education researcher Deanna Hess has shown that classrooms that explicitly teach discussion norms produce students with stronger civic reasoning skills and a higher tolerance for viewpoint diversity. The first structural rule is the restatement checkpoint, a mandatory barrier between listening and responding. Student B cannot issue a rebuttal until they restate Student A's argument so accurately that Student A confirms it. Only then does the gate open for a response. This forces a complete pause in the action. Instead of spending the time mentally drafting a reactive counterattack, Student B is required to prioritize genuine listening. This protocol turns the opposing student into a sparring partner, someone whose job is to provide the skilled resistance you need to test and refine your own ideas. Students can level up to a practice called steelmanning. This is the inverse of a straw man argument. It involves constructing the strongest possible version of an opponent's view before critiquing it. David and Roger Johnson used a version of this in their research on structured academic controversy, finding that requiring students to argue for a position they don't hold produces more critical thinking than traditional debate. In practice, this means that before a student states their own view, they must first articulate the best possible case a thoughtful person could hold for the opposite side. You can drill this by randomly assigning students a position and giving them 3 minutes to build a courtroom-style case for it, regardless of what they personally believe. These exercises force a student to engage with an opponent's strongest logic, making it difficult to rely on lazy caricatures to win an argument. The final protocol is tone accountability. The teacher evaluates using 2 metrics, the strength of evidence on one axis and respectfulness of delivery on the other. This splits feedback. An argument might be logically sound but contemptuous, or highly respectful but incredibly weak. Explicitly separating these metrics removes the incentive to use a logical victory as a license to be cruel to a classmate. This teaches a concrete lesson. Being right never excuses treating an opponent with contempt. When a classroom normalizes these 4 moves across a school year, it replaces the reflex to reactively argue with a set of deliberate, repeatable habits. The unifying mechanism behind all this research is the requirement to genuinely engage with the strongest version of a counterargument before you are allowed to push back. Looking back at those 2 classrooms, the difference wasn't the student's character, it was whether the room had a structure that made productive disagreement possible. We cannot change the social algorithms that reward outrage, but by teaching these skills, classrooms can equip students to hold a firm conviction without destroying a relationship.